Hey guys! So I wanted to make a video about siblings because I was thinking about my own sisters. I'm the youngest of three sisters that I have. There's Megan and then we have another older sister named Emma. And I looked at when National Sibling Day is and then realized it's not until next April and I don't want to wait. So I decided to make a list of my top 10 fictional siblings. This is going to be fictional siblings in general, so there will be a lot of literary siblings, but there may also be some from different TV shows and movies mixed in as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's do this. So at spot number 10, we have Fitzwilliam Darcy and his younger sister Georgiana. These two are, I find them really, I hate to use this word, but cute. They just have this very, very close relationship. They're both very quiet and, at least at first, not very socially adept, but you can tell they're very, very comfortable with each other. Georgiana definitely relies on her brother a lot. And it's just fun seeing kind of how their relationship works throughout the story, especially given the age gap. Okay, and at number 9, we have Boromir and Faramir from The Lord of the Rings. These two are interesting because we don't actually see them interact very much. We more see them react to each other. Mainly Faramir reacting to Boromir, since we didn't actually know that Boromir had a brother until after his death. Yeah, spoiler alert for that, sorry. But seeing how heartbroken Faramir is at the loss of his brother, it speaks volumes to how their relationship worked. And also, I love in the movie how they showed how Faramir and Boromir interact and how close they were. And Boromir was really Faramir's advocate against their father, who treated Faramir quite badly. So yeah, Boromir was the favorite, but he actively chose to kind of defend his brother and take his brother's side whenever he could. And then Faramir, you can tell how much he loved his brother from his reactions to finding out that Boromir is in fact dead. And number 8, this one might seem a little strange, but Marie, Berlioz, and Toulouse from the Aristocats. For a bit of context on this one, my family didn't actually own very many movies growing up, but one that we did have was the Aristocats. So me and my sisters grew up watching these three interact on screen, and I just love them. I love how they argue the way siblings would, but there clearly is an affection between the three of them, but they do act like genuine little kids, and I kind of love it. So yeah, those three are amazing. And number 7, back to the literature, we've got Marguerite Blakeney and Armand St-Just. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name, but yeah. So these two are from the Scarlet Pimpernel, and they are a brother-sister. I believe they're fairly close in age, but Marguerite, I believe, is a little bit older than Armand. They basically raised each other. Marguerite refers to herself as Armand's little mother, I believe, and him as her small father, or something. It may have been small mother and little father, but either way, they basically raised each other. And a lot of Marguerite's motivations come from the treatment of Armand. That's a huge thing for her in this book, and same thing with Armand, actually. So their relationship is really wonderful. When the book starts, Marguerite is really struggling in her marriage, and Armand has become her safe place. So yeah, their relationship is very sweet. And number 6, we have the Bennet sisters from Pride and Prejudice, in particular the relationship between Jane and Elizabeth. But I can't totally discount the other three either, because as much as their relationship isn't as nurturing and loving as Jane and Elizabeth's, it's quite realistic. There are siblings who do act like this, like seeing how Kitty and Lydia kind of gravitate to one another and how they influence each other and how each sibling reacts to their birth order and kind of how they interact with each other. And then seeing how Elizabeth and Jane are so supportive of each other and is really, really nice. I especially like seeing how Jane does not express her emotions openly to Elizabeth. But Elizabeth has got to the point where she can read her sister without Jane telling her these things. So, like when she tells Darcy, my sister hardly expresses her feelings even to me, that's true, but Elizabeth can still tell what they are. It's just that she's learned to read her sister. And for number 5, we're going to jump to TV. On the TV series Supernatural, the two lead characters, Sam and Dean, are brothers, and their relationship is really, really fascinating. It's not always healthy, definitely not. But overall, they do have each other's backs, and they do care about each other very, very much, at times almost too much so, actually. But their relationship is very, very interesting and almost inspiring to watch, especially in the earlier seasons. Just to clarify, I have not actually seen all of Supernatural, I think they're on season 14 right now, and I know basically all of what happens up till season 5, and then after that my knowledge gets a lot more hazy. Their relationship, it changes, but for the most part, it stays consistently solid at its core. There are some rough patches, for sure, but it's really, really wonderful to watch how these two brothers always care about each other, especially given the environment they grew up in. If you've seen Supernatural, you know what I mean. How they basically just had each other. Yeah, their dad was there, but yeah, that's not really a good dynamic there. Dean was in many ways as much of a father to Sam as his actual father was. But I just love their dynamic so much, especially given the fact that, despite the fact that Dean's the older brother, he can sometimes, not always, but sometimes be less mature than his younger brother, let's just say. But when it comes right down to it, Dean will always be there to support Sam and vice versa, and I just love it. And number 4, we have the March sisters. So Jo, Meg, Beth, and Amy. Now, full clarification, I have not actually read Little Women. I have listened to a dramatized full version of the book, and I also grew up with the Winona Ryder movie of this. So I know the books very well, especially since Megan really, really loves this book, so I know a lot about it from her. But there's something about the dynamic between these 4 that is really, really wonderful. You can definitely tell that it was heavily, heavily inspired by the author's real-life family because they feel so real. That just how each sister has a very distinct personality and the way those personalities relate to each other. And then watching how everyone rallies around each other when tragedy strikes. No spoilers there, but you know, if you've read the book or seen the movies, you know, is really, really... It's a very, very sad part of the story, but it's wonderful to watch how this family bond pulls together to get through it. So yeah, the March sisters are a big one. And then of course, for me on a personal note, the fact that it's a sister relationship is a big thing. And as a result, this was a story that we grew up with. So it's one that I relate very heavily to, and it's also very nostalgic for me. And number 3, we have the Dashwood sisters from Sense and Sensibility. This is another one that I haven't read, but due to various adaptations and also my sister loving it, I do know the story fairly well. I love the dynamic between these 3. I know Margaret doesn't get a lot of development, but honestly, I really relate to Margaret. And there's just something about having the 3 sisters, because again, that's my family dynamic, is 3 girls. So that in and of itself is enough to make me relate to it. And then the dynamic between these three women, or girl in Margaret's case, she's a bit young to be classified as a woman, but you know, it's seeing the way they interact is really, really heartwarming, especially how they react to other people's reactions to each other. Like, one of my favorite scenes, and this is going to get a little bit spoilery, but I don't think it's too bad. One of my favorite scenes in Jane Austen is the scene when Willoughby goes to try and talk to Marianne, and Eleanor is the one he ends up talking to. That scene is so realistic because that's definitely a real thing. Like, if someone hurts my sisters, I have a harder time forgiving them than if they hurt me. So seeing Eleanor basically just look at Willoughby and go, no, like, get out. Yes, thank you, Eleanor. Go, you know, good for you. And number 2, if you have watched my channel, this probably won't be a surprise to you. The Pevensie siblings from the Chronicles of Narnia. The Chronicles of Narnia is the most nostalgic and probably to me integral story in my life. I absolutely adore these books and their adaptations. Yes, I will admit there are problems, but it's a very, very big thing for me, and one of the biggest aspects of it is the relationship between the 4 siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. One thing I really, really love about them is, again, they're dynamic, but I find them interesting because they're not actually based on real people, except for possibly Lucy. Because as much as I love the fact that all these other dynamics I've been mentioning are based on real people, it's kind of cool seeing a dynamic this realistic that isn't based on a specific real group. But yeah, I love them. I love seeing how the different relationships change. Edmund and Lucy's dynamic is really interesting because it starts out very, very negative and then becomes quite positive by the end. And also seeing how Peter isn't always quite sure what to do in his position of oldest sibling, because due to the situation they're in, he very much is the leader. It has to be the leader, but he's not always very confident in that role. And then there's Susan, who very much is kind of almost the mother figure of the 4, because a lot of the time there is no adult with them, so the older 2 almost become like the parental figures despite still being siblings. And I love how they squabble and fight, but ultimately they love each other and will band together. So yeah, and then also the fact that they all have different strengths and weaknesses that complement each other really well. So that's a big one for me. And number 1, this is going to be very different from a lot of the others. My number 1 is going to be Edward and Alphonse Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Now, I haven't actually read the manga yet. I'm working on it, but I haven't finished it yet. And then I haven't seen the original Full Metal Alchemist series, so this is going to be referring to the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood TV series only. Or, sorry, anime only. But I love these 2. They have such an interesting and I want to say dependent, but it's in a healthy way, dynamic with each other, because these 2 brothers, again, I've used this phrase before in this video already, but they basically raised each other. Their mom died when they were very young. That's not a spoiler. Their dad is also not in the picture. Again, not a spoiler. And there were adults in their life, and they did at times occasionally have an adult kind of living with them. But for the most part, it was just the two of them. They basically were dependent on each other from the time when they were really, really little. So as a result, they are very, very used to kind of calling each other out on their crap, but also working with each other. They love each other very, very much. They do show kindness and love to other people, but you can tell they will always put each other first. To very, very extreme points. I can't really give any examples without giving spoilers, but Ed and Alphonse Elric have such a close dynamic. It's really, really incredible to watch. This whole series is amazing, honestly. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a series I would really, really recommend. But the core of the series, the heart of it, is the relationship between the two brothers. That is the primary relationship in the series, which I really love. There's a lot of, pretty much all the relationships are amazing on the show, but that's the big one. So if you haven't seen it, I would totally recommend it. But anyway, so that's going to be my video of my top 10 fictional siblings. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment down below. And yeah, and then Megan, I love you both. Bye.